They always said I was the practical one, the steady son, the one who'd figure things out without needing help. I used to think that was a compliment. Now I know it was a convenient excuse for them to pile responsibilities on me while my brother got to play golden child. My name's Andrew. I'm 32, and this whole mess started about a year ago when my mom called me at work to chat about the house. That's what she said, anyway. It sounded casual, but with my mom, nothing ever is. I work as a project manager at a mid-sized construction firm, so my schedule's tight. Calls during work hours usually mean something's up. I stepped outside, phone tucked between my shoulder and ear, and she started in. Andy, your father and I were thinking, maybe you could come by this weekend? The house needs a little love. Translation, unpaid labor. Again, my parents' house was the same one I grew up in. A two-story colonial on the edge of town, worn but full of memories. My brother, Caleb, 35, lived 20 minutes away with his wife in a brand-new suburban development. He rarely lifted a finger to help with anything that didn't benefit him directly. But somehow, whenever the roof leaked or the basement flooded, it was my problem. And every time I'd go, I'd tell myself it was fine. They're getting older, I'd think. It's just what family does. That weekend, I showed up with my toolbox. The place needed more than a little love. The upstairs bathroom tiles were cracked, the paint was peeling, and the kitchen still looked like a 1990s time capsule. My mom greeted me with her usual half-smile, the one that said, "I'm glad you're here, but don't expect a thank you." Dad was watching a football game, feet up, beer in hand. "Glad you could make it," he said, without looking away from the screen. The thing is, I didn't mind helping, not really. What got to me was the assumption that I would. No question, no discussion, just expectation. Over the next few months, I spent nearly every weekend there fixing things. I installed new kitchen cabinets, repainted the living room, even rewired the old garage lights. I used my own tools, my own time, and my own money when something needed replacing. And every time, my parents acted like I was fulfilling some invisible debt. Meanwhile, Caleb? He'd swing by once a month, usually when Mom cooked his favorite roast. He'd talk big about his real estate ventures, which was just him renting out one condo he inherited from Grandpa, and they'd look at him like he was Elon Musk. One evening after I'd just finished grouting the bathroom floor, I overheard my parents talking in the kitchen. I wasn't snooping, they were just loud. Mom said, "I don't know what Caleb would do without us." Dad replied, "He's trying, honey. Not everyone's like Andrew. He doesn't need us the same way." And that stuck with me. He doesn't need us. Like independence was some kind of flaw. Like I disqualified myself from being loved or appreciated just because I could handle life on my own. Fast forward to spring. I came over to replace a few broken fence panels, and Mom mentioned something strange over coffee. "Your father and I met with the lawyer this week. Just, for estate planning." "Oh," I said, trying to sound neutral. "That's smart. You should have that sorted." She gave this little laugh, like she knew something I didn't. "We just want to make sure Caleb's taken care of. He's the one with a family, after all." My stomach turned. I wanted to ask, what about me? But I didn't. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. But the thought lingered in the back of my mind, echoing like a warning. A few months later, my dad had a minor health scare. Nothing serious, just a precautionary hospital stay. While he was there, I handled the bills, the insurance calls, even fixed the leaky sink in their guest bathroom. Caleb didn't even visit until Dad was already home. And when he did, he brought a get-well balloon and a box of store-bought cookies. Mom called it so thoughtful. Then came the breaking point. It was late autumn when I found out the truth. My aunt, bless her bluntness, accidentally let it slip during a family barbecue. "Oh, so Caleb's getting the house then," she said, between bites of potato salad. I froze. "What?" She blinked. "Oh, I thought you knew. Your mom mentioned it at church. Said the will leaves the house and most assets to Caleb since he's more settled." That word again. Settled. Like my entire life's worth of effort, helping, fixing, showing up, meant nothing because I didn't have a wife or kids. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every nail I'd hammered into that place. Every hour I'd spent sanding, painting, patching. I'd poured my weekends, my money, and my heart into that house. And apparently, it wasn't even mine to touch. The next day, I confronted my mom. She was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup like it was any other day. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Is it true? About the will?" She didn't even look surprised. Oh, Andrew, don't make this into a big thing. It's just practical. Caleb has a family. He needs stability. And I don't. I asked. You're single, honey. You'll be fine. You always are. I stood there in stunned silence. That line, you'll be fine, it hit like a slap. Because it was true. I was always fine. And they'd used that as an excuse to give me nothing. From that point on, something in me shifted. I stopped showing up on weekends. Stopped answering every "can you fix this?" text. The silence bothered them more than I expected. Mom would send little guilt-laced messages. The gutters are leaking again. Dad's too old to climb the ladder. Your brother's busy. Maybe you could help out just this once? I ignored them. For the first time in my life, I put myself first. Then, about a month after the will incident, Mom sent a text that almost made me laugh out loud. Mortgage is due this week, she wrote. Could you send over your usual amount? My usual amount. She meant the help I'd been giving them since I was 25, covering part of their mortgage, temporarily, when Dad lost his job years ago. I never stopped, even after he found another. They just quietly let me keep paying. This time, though, I took a deep breath and typed back. Sounds like a firstborn problem. I stared at the screen for a full minute before hitting send. Her typing bubbles popped up instantly, disappeared, then popped up again. She didn't know what to say. For once, she couldn't guilt or charm her way out. A minute later, I followed up with another message. A link to a budgeting app. No explanation. No apology. Just that. I set my phone down, leaned back, and realized, for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. But that text? That's when everything really started to unravel. Because Mom didn't take it as a message. She took it as a declaration of war. And the next thing she did was worse than anything I could have imagined. When I tell you that text flipped a switch in my mom's brain, I mean it. By the next morning, my phone looked like it had been through a storm. Missed calls, a dozen messages, even a voicemail where she started calm and ended near tears. Andrew, I don't know what's gotten into you lately, she said. You've changed. This isn't like you. We're family. We help each other. I didn't answer. I'd spent my entire adult life being the family handyman, the emotional anchor, and the financial safety net. The moment I stopped, they acted like I'd broken some sacred contract. A few days later, my brother Caleb called. I debated letting it ring out, but curiosity won. Hey man, he said, voice unnaturally casual. Mom's really upset. What's going on between you two? I almost laughed. You mean besides me finding out you're getting everything in the will? Including the house I literally rebuilt. He went quiet. Then, the faint sound of him exhaling. She told you, huh? She didn't. Aunt Lisa did. Oh. He cleared his throat. Look, Andy, it's not personal. Mom and Dad just figured that you need it more because you have a family. I cut in. Yeah, I've heard the line. He sighed. The kind of sigh people give when they're pretending to be reasonable. You've got to understand, it's not about fairness. It's about practicality. I've got a mortgage, kids, bills. I snapped. And what do you think I have? Just because I don't have a wife doesn't mean my life's free of responsibilities. I've helped pay their mortgage for years, Caleb. You didn't even know that, did you? Silence. Then, quietly, no. I didn't. Well, now you do. He muttered something under his breath, something like, you didn't have to, but I didn't care. I ended the call before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, Mom showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. It was around 8:30 p.m., and I'd just finished dinner when I heard a knock. When I opened the door, she was standing there in her beige coat, holding a Tupperware container like some kind of peace offering. I brought your favorite stew, she said softly. I stepped aside. Come in. She sat at the table, fussing with her scarf. For a minute, neither of us said anything. The silence was heavy. Then she finally looked up. You've always been my rock, Andrew. You know that, right? I didn't answer. I'd learned that her kind tone usually came before a guilt trip. We're all under a lot of stress, she continued. Your father's health, the bills, the house repairs. Caleb just can't handle all that. You're stronger, more capable. There it was again. More capable. The word that had become both praise and punishment. Mom, I said slowly. I'm done paying for things that aren't my responsibility. You and Dad made your choices. You decided to give everything to Caleb. That's fine. But that means I'm done being your backup plan. Her lips trembled slightly. We thought you understood. You've always been independent. Caleb, he just needs more help. And you never thought maybe I needed help? I asked. Her eyes flickered, guilt flashing just for a second before she looked away. You're being unfair. You've always had so much. A good job, no debt, no dependence. Because I worked for it, I said sharply. Because I didn't expect anyone to bail me out. The air between us went cold. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. But instead, she said something that floored me. Caleb's your brother, Andrew. You should be happy for him. Happy. For the man who was inheriting the home I spent years repairing. The man who never showed up when the roof leaked, never lifted a finger when Dad was sick, never paid a cent toward the mortgage I'd been covering. I stood up and pointed toward the door. You should go. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue. But then she saw something in my face. Resolve, maybe. She grabbed her coat and left, saying nothing. For the next week, the silence was deafening. No calls. No texts. Nothing. I tried to focus on work, but the anger kept boiling up in small moments. When I made coffee, when I drove past the hardware store, when I saw a family out walking their dog. It wasn't just about the money or the house anymore. It was about how easily they'd dismissed me, how disposable I'd been to the people I'd spent my life trying to please. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. A month later, my cousin Jordan called. He's one of the few relatives I actually like. Down to earth, no drama, runs a small landscaping business. Hey man, he said. Weird question. Your mom mentioned something about you selling your tools? That true? I blinked. What? No. What? She said you were downsizing and might lend your stuff to Caleb for some housework. My pulse picked up. Lend? As in my personal equipment? Yeah. She asked me if I had a truck to help move it next week. I felt my jaw tighten. They were planning to take my tools. Without even asking. That night, I drove over to my parents' place. The porch light was off, but I could see the faint glow of the TV inside. My heart was pounding. I wasn't sure if I was angrier or just tired. Probably both. When Mom opened the door, she looked startled. Andrew, what are you doing here? I heard you're planning to lend my tools to Caleb. Her face flushed. Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just for a few weeks. He's fixing up the guest room. They're my tools. Bought with my own money. You don't even use them anymore, she said, waving a hand. They're just sitting there. Why not let him borrow them? I stared at her. Because they're mine, Mom. And because you didn't ask. She crossed her arms. You're being childish. Family shares. No, I said quietly. Family respects. We stood there in silence again, just like before, except this time there was no stew, no softness. Just raw, brittle air. Leave them where they are, I said finally. If I find out they're gone, I'll assume Caleb stole them, and I'll call the police. Her eyes widened. Andrew, that's extreme. I finished. So is rewriting your will to cut me out while still expecting me to fund your life. I turned and walked out before she could reply. For a week, I heard nothing. Then one morning, I woke up to an email from my mom. The subject line read, "You've broken this family." Inside, it was a wall of text, accusations, emotional manipulation, the works. She said Dad was heartbroken, that Caleb was hurt, that I'd abandoned them. And the kicker? She ended it with, "We always thought you'd be there for us, even when things got tough." Guess we were wrong. I stared at the screen, the words blurring together. Then I noticed something attached at the bottom. A scanned document. It was the will. And that's when I saw something that made my stomach twist. Not only had they left the house to Caleb, but they'd also listed me as a secondary beneficiary. Only if Caleb predeceased both of them. They'd literally written me in as the backup plan. I must have stared at that will for 10 straight minutes, just frozen. I don't know what stung worse, the fact that they'd written me in as a backup, or that they'd done it so formally, like it was a line item in a spreadsheet. In the event that Caleb is unable to fulfill ownership, as if I were some secondhand replacement, a spare tire waiting in the garage. I printed it out, laid it on my desk, and just sat there in silence. The paper felt heavier than it should have. I remembered every nail I'd driven into their walls, every hour I'd spent fixing that place after work, every time Mom said, "You're such a good son." Apparently, good just meant useful. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept running through old memories like a film reel I couldn't stop. The time Caleb accidentally dented my car in high school, and Mom made me apologize because he didn't mean it. The college tuition that I covered myself while they helped him with his down payment. Even the Christmas when I brought them gifts I could barely afford, and they spent half the evening talking about Caleb's promising investments. It hit me that this wasn't new. It was just finally undeniable. 2 days later, Dad called. I hadn't talked to him since the confrontation about the tools. He sounded tired, like he'd been coached on what to say. "Son," he began, "your mother's pretty upset. I think we should all just calm down before this gets worse." "Worse?" I asked. "You think me finding out you left me out of your will is me making things worse?" "Now, don't twist my words. It's not like that. We just figured Caleb would manage the property better. He's settled, you know." "There it is again," I said quietly. "That word. Settled." He sighed. "You've always had your independence, Andrew. That's something to be proud of. But your brother has obligations." "Yeah," I said, bitterness creeping into my voice. "And I was one of them." He didn't respond for a long moment. Then, softly, "Don't be like this. You'll regret it when we're gone." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. A week passed. I thought things might finally go quiet, that they'd back off. But my parents don't back off, they escalate. It started small. A few mutual relatives stopped returning my calls. My aunt, who used to check in weekly, texted, "I think you should talk to your mom. She's been crying every day." My cousin Jordan said my parents told everyone I was acting out after a misunderstanding. Then came the kicker. I got a notice in the mail from their bank. My name was still on their joint account, the one I used years ago to help pay their mortgage. I'd forgotten all about it. They must have kept it open on purpose. And guess what? A withdrawal had been made in my name. $500. I checked the timestamp. 8:43 a.m. on a weekday. I was at work. I called the bank immediately. The rep said it was authorized by Andrew Mitchell. I told her I hadn't made that withdrawal. She paused. "Oh," she said, "then you'll want to file a dispute." So I did. It wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. Someone had used my name to pull funds, and there were only 2 people who could have done it. The next morning, my phone lit up with a call from Mom. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, a text. "Did you really file a dispute against your parents?" I typed, deleted, retyped, deleted again, then finally sent. "I filed a dispute against whoever took my money." Her response came quick. "How dare you? We raised you better than this." I stared at those words for a long time, hands shaking, not from anger, but something deeper. Sadness, maybe. Disbelief. The idea that they could lie, manipulate, even take from me, and still think they had the moral high ground. Later that evening, Caleb called again. This time, he didn't even try to sound calm. "What are you doing, man? You filed a claim against Mom and Dad. They took money out of my account," I said. "It's their account too." "No, Caleb. It's not. It's mine. I just helped them manage it. They weren't supposed to touch it anymore." He exhaled loudly. "You're blowing this out of proportion. They needed it for a bill, okay? You know how tight things are." "Then maybe they should have budgeted better," I said coldly. He laughed, but it wasn't amused. It was sharp, defensive. "You've changed, Andrew. You used to care about family." "I still do," I said quietly. "Just not the kind that uses me." For a long time, there was silence. Then, Caleb's voice turned low. "You're gonna regret this." That one stuck with me. It wasn't just a warning, it sounded like a promise. Over the next few days, things got weird. My parents unfriended me on Facebook. Extended relatives started posting vague status updates about ungrateful children. And then, one morning, I woke up to a flurry of notifications. Caleb had posted a long rant about siblings who abandoned their families for money. I didn't comment, didn't defend myself. But friends from high school started messaging me, asking if everything was okay. It was humiliating. My own brother had turned the whole family against me before I even had a chance to explain. That same afternoon, Mom called again. I ignored it. Then she left a voicemail I'll never forget. Her voice was trembling, but not from sadness, from rage. "You've embarrassed this family, Andrew. Everyone's talking about you. After all we've done, you turn on us. I hope you're proud of yourself." Then a pause. And in the faintest whisper, she added, "You were always just jealous of your brother." That line hit like a punch to the gut, because it wasn't true. I never wanted what Caleb had. I just wanted fairness, respect, basic decency. But I didn't reply. Not yet. I wanted to cool off. That night, though, something strange happened. Around 11 p.m., I got an email notification from my cloud drive, the one I used for work projects. Someone had tried to log in from an unknown device. Then again, 2 minutes later. I froze. Could they really be trying to access my stuff now? I checked the IP address. It was from my parents' town. I changed my password immediately, then just sat there staring at the login alert. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. It was turning into something else, something calculated. They weren't just cutting me out. They were trying to erase me. I didn't sleep that night. Every few minutes I'd glance at my phone, half expecting another login attempt, or a new message from Mom, or maybe even something from Caleb. But there was nothing, just silence. The kind that doesn't calm you, only tightens around you like a wire. By morning, I knew I had to do something. I'd spent years trying to be the good son, the reasonable one, the one who keeps the peace. But peace built on silence isn't peace, it's submission. And I was done submitting. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. A real one this time, not the family friend my parents used. Her name was Megan. I brought her everything. The printed will, the bank statements, screenshots of the texts, even the login attempt notification. She listened carefully, taking notes, occasionally raising her eyebrows at the details. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "You've been more than generous with them, Andrew. What they've done isn't just manipulative. It borders on financial abuse." I blinked. Financial abuse? Absolutely. You've been paying their mortgage, maintaining their property, and they've misused your funds. You even have evidence of unauthorized withdrawals. That's serious. Her words hit me like a strange mix of validation and shame. For years, I told myself I was helping them out of love. I never realized I was being used. Megan helped me file a formal dispute with the bank, freeze the joint account, and remove my name from all shared financial ties. She also drafted a letter to their lawyer, politely stating that I wished to have no involvement in any estate matters going forward. "You're cutting the cord," she said, "and you're doing it legally." It felt liberating. A week later, I got a call from Caleb. I didn't answer. Then a text. "What did you do?" "Mom's freaking out. The bank froze the account. She says you embarrassed her in front of the lawyer." I typed back one word. "Good." He called again, and again I let it ring. Then he sent another message, longer this time. "You're a selfish jerk. You think this makes you better than us? You'll regret this, Andrew. One day, when they're gone, you'll wish you'd acted differently." I stared at the screen for a while. Then I typed, "Maybe, but at least I'll have peace." And I meant it. That weekend, I drove past their house for the last time. The same one I'd spent countless weekends fixing. The same one I'd painted, patched, repaired. The fence panels I'd replaced were weathered now, a few nails rusting. The porch light flickered, just like always. A part of me wanted to stop, just for closure, but I didn't. I kept driving. A few months went by. The silence stretched, uncomfortable at first, then peaceful. I started spending weekends hiking, traveling, finally doing things for myself. My apartment felt bigger without the weight of obligation hanging over it. Then, one evening, I got an unexpected call. It was Jordan, my cousin. "Hey man," he said. "Just thought you should know. Your parents listed the house for sale." I paused. "Really?" "Yeah. But here's the weird part. Caleb's name isn't on the listing. It's just your dad's and your mom's. Looks like they're trying to downsize." I didn't know what to say. I felt nothing, honestly. Just a quiet kind of closure. Over the next few months, I heard bits and pieces through the family grapevine. They sold the house, bought a small condo. Caleb had to move back in with them temporarily after a bad investment went south. Mom started complaining to relatives about how hard life got after Andrew left. But by then, I'd stopped caring what they said. Then, one afternoon, as I was leaving work, I saw a familiar name flash across my phone screen, Mom. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the decline button. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was quieter than I remembered. "Hi, honey." "Hi, Mom. I just wanted to call and say," she paused, as if the words were heavy. "We sold the house." "I heard," I said. "It's strange, not being there anymore. Your father misses the garden. I miss the kitchen." I didn't reply. Then, softly, she said, "You were right, Andrew. That made me stop walking." "About what?" "About Caleb. About everything. He's not helping with the new place. Says he's too busy. And the money from the sale is almost gone." Her voice cracked a little on that last part. For the first time in my life, she sounded less like the queen of control and more like a person who'd run out of excuses. I took a breath. I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't keep fixing things for you. I know. Her voice trembled. I just wanted you to know. I understand now. I see how he treated you. And I'm sorry. There was a long silence. Part of me wanted to say I forgave her. Another part of me, the part that still remembered being called the backup plan, just couldn't. So I said, thank you for saying that. And that was it. No dramatic reconciliation. No family reunion. Just quiet understanding, years too late. Months passed. Life went on. I started dating again. Got promoted at work. Bought my own house, not too big, but mine. I built a workshop in the garage, filled it with my tools. The same ones they'd try to take. On weekends, I'd stand there sanding a piece of oak, smell of varnish in the air, and feel something I hadn't felt in years, contentment. Every now and then, Mom sends a text. Short things like, hope you're well, or saw your favorite stew on sale today. I usually reply with a polite thanks or glad to hear. We're civil now, but distant. I think that's all it'll ever be. The last message she sent came on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Mortgage is due, it said. I stared at it for a second, not sure if she was joking or if muscle memory just made her type it. Then I smiled, typed back the same thing I had before, sounds like a Firstborn problem, and sent her another link. This time, it wasn't to a budgeting app. It was to a retirement planning course. She never replied. And that, honestly, was the perfect ending. Because for once, I didn't need closure. I already had it.